What was one experience in your life that hardened you as a person? Gosh, working in the back of an ambulance you see so many terrible things. One that does stick with me was a call for a 30-year-old female for suicide. She jumped before we got there, but she was still conscious and very much alive. She hit a balcony on the way down and smashed her arm, huge open fracture. That itself isn't very memorable, but when we got there and got our high-vis jackets on, I looked over to my partner who was a few feet ahead of me, just standing there, shocked. I looked at the patient and she was biting and ripping at her fracture, and I don't know why it fucked me up so bad. Just the notion that someone could be mentally unstable and deranged enough to shred and pull at her own flesh. It was something else. The call that stuck with me was when we AMA a diabetic patient and on the way back to the station to clock out a kid in a sports car texting didn't notice a bend in the divided highway. Went through the median and under a lifted huge truck. The roof came down and ripped half his face off. He was still conscious, begging me to not let him die. Like bubbles of blood were coming out of his face as he tried breathing with his nose and his eye was hanging out, just dangling. He knew his name, age, where he was and what happened. I was trying to wrap his face up a bit to stop bleeding and the car starting lighting up. My partner ran up with an extinguisher and hit the engine with it, but I got a shit ton of the powder in my face. The kid slowly went unconscious, but in the end he survived somehow. I dream about that one frequently still to this day, and that was about 14 years ago. I remember getting to the hospital covered in blood and extinguishers powder. I still can smell that irony blood smell every now and then. Mine was heading to my shift at the hospital. Saw a bad wreck and stopped to render aid. This was just when cell phones were starting to be fairly common. A 4 or 5 year old little girl was already out of the car and screaming for her mom. Her mom's jaw was on the dash of the car, teeth and all. That one never left me. With no hope for mom due to the blood loss, I had to focus on calming the little girl down until you guys showed up. That was 23 years ago last month, and I still wonder if that little girl is okay without her mom. I have that hard lump in my throat just writing this. Just one? Taking care of my stepdad while he died of mad cow disease. Runner-up, my bio dad having a degenerative brain disease, PSP, and calling me at work slurring his words. We never had the greatest relationship and I was on the clock and told him I had to go. Had no idea what he was saying. He then wrote down numbers and names of family members and put them in his pocket and drove into a tree. He didn't make it. My partner's father died of mad cow's disease, or a version of it. CJD I think they called it. 1 in a million chance of getting it spontaneously like he did. Gradually took him over a year. Fit, healthy, lovely guy. Reduced to a shell within 10 months. Died in a nappy at a fucking palliative care center. He was 63. Absolutely heartbreaking year for all involved. Prion diseases are next level terrifying. The fact that they can strike without warning and the chance of survival is literally zero. And I thought rabies was scary. Plus, they're nearly impossible to kill, deactivate, out in the environment. Prison is rough. Not the worst experience of my life, but it definitely changed me. So, I had a really good friend who I drifted from and he ended up getting into a bad place emotionally. Long story, but he ended up shooting but not killing this woman he was involved with. Luckily she survived. He got 21 years in prison. I ended up looking his Facebook page just today and I was surprised to see that he had access to it. His cover page was a view looking through his cell bars out at stainless steel benches down at the common room or something. Profile pic was him looking stern. He's now muscular from obviously working out every day. He was a super skinny guy before. I've contemplated reaching out to him but I'm honestly not sure. He really fucked up and he could have killed someone, but I can't imagine the hell he and others must be going through. I keep playing through my head 21 years and how goddamn long that is. Sorry you went through that. Yeah, doing over 12 months in juvie definitely changed me. And I've done jail and they're effectively the exact same thing. They still get violent in there, They still sexually abuse people, not me thankfully, but it did happen in a couple of the ones they move you around to. There's drug addicts in both juvie and jail. People get killed in juvie, maybe not as often as jail, but kids are fucking ruthless. The level of bullying emo is worse in juvie, at least in jail. I got one comment about, yeah, doing over 12 months in juvie definitely changed me. And I've done jail and they're effectively the exact same thing. They still get violent in there, they still sexually abuse people, not me thankfully, but it did happen in a couple of the ones they move you around to. There's drug addicts in both juvie and jail. People get killed in juvie, maybe not as often as jail, but kids are fucking ruthless. The level of bullying emo is worse in juvie, at least in jail. I got one comment about the night terrors after you get out. The difficulty forming a normal relationship with people was real for a while, the want to be alone and the content feeling of doing nothing and being by yourself. But honestly, the night terrors stick with me to this day. I don't remember any dreams I'm having when I wake up, but when I did have dreams for the first few years when I came home, it was the same fucking dream. It would go like, in the dream I'm woken up by the guard/staff at 7 AM to go take a shower with the rest of the kids. I go back in my bed after the shower and rest for a bit. I go eat breakfast. I go back into my room until class starts. I go to the cafeteria again, back to the bathroom, back to my room, and I lay down on the foam and hard plastic mattress and bed combo, and when I close my eyes I wake up in my real bed covered in sweat. I didn't even want to sleep anymore. The dreams felt real, they felt like they were in real time. I could feel the steps under my feet. Time felt like it was moving normal, like I was back there, and I wake up and I'm back home. That shit does not help people. BTW, I spent the next like 10 years depressed, suicidal, in abusive relationships, doing drugs, fucking anything that wanted to, and even doing illegal shit again because I couldn't function as a person in society, and the most mundane tasks felt like obstacles now. Still do, kind of. I work now. I don't really date anymore because it's too much for me to maintain. Before I went in juvie I had a part-time side job, got good grades, had a girlfriend of a year, my baby sister was just born, I had friends that I talked to every day. And now I'd not much of shit except for a job now. So I'm police. When I was a rookie patrol officer I was the first to respond to a father that shot and killed his 12 and 8-year-old sons in front of their mother. Then he shot and killed himself. The 8-year-old was still alive when I got there, but died very soon after. Hardening is both good and bad. PTSD is no joke and I'm living testimony. But someone has to be able to respond to these calls and not lose their cool. And I can do that. First responders, fire/EMS/police, nurses/doctors and military too kind of have to do a baptism by fire with stuff like this. I'm not unique. Hey. So yeah. I had a similar experience. I was a paramedic at the time, and my co-worker shot and killed his kids, then called his ex, their mom, and killed himself on the phone. Her. It's fucked, and that was 15 years ago. But know this, you're not alone in all the mess.